and welcome back to the Winner's Circle. This is the exit interview edition. Spoiler alert, we are interviewing the third house guest evicted from the Big Brother 24 season, Ameerah, and we take a dive into kind of the treatment of Taylor, why she was so blinded by this house target, and who she feels most betrayed by. And so if you guys are liking the content, please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because we are going to be doing a lengthier interview with Ameerah once she gets back and settles in. So without further ado, here is the Ameerah. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Winner's Circle. As you guys can see, I am joined here by the most recent evicted house guest, Ameerah. Ameerah, how you feeling?
I'm feeling fine. As good as I can be in this moment, I guess.
Yeah, how have you come down from the blindside yet?
Not yet. I still feel a little sick, a little betrayed, a lot of mixed emotions. I'm still trying to put conversations together, puzzle pieces together. I'm still trying to figure out like where this all came from.
Yeah. So my first question is, last week you saw a golden opportunity to evict Pooch because he was super blinded by this house target that seemed to be Taylor, and the house was kind of like getting behind that, and Pooch was blinded by that. Now, do you feel a similar thing happened to you? You were the one that used that against Pooch, and you were like, nope, perfect opportunity, Pooch is going home. Do you feel that you got clouded by this like mass Taylor target like cloud, and it kind of blinded you from seeing what was actually happening?
Maybe, I guess you could say it like that. I definitely thought that Taylor was a target because everyone around me is talking about how Taylor is the target and why she's the target. All the guys were afraid of Taylor. There was a lot of drama happening around her. So I thought that everyone wanted to get her out. The difference between me and Pooch is that Pooch put himself up as a pawn. I would never do that. I was actually backdoored. So it was a little different. I just want to say that.
Yeah.
But yes, I do think that there was everyone was talking about Taylor 24/7. It was like, it was just everywhere all the time. And so as far as I was concerned, like everyone was telling me that how Taylor was a target. I mean, even Turner had told me his top 3 targets, and Taylor was number 1. So
Right.
I was definitely blindsided.
Yeah, it was tough. And I wanted to touch a little bit on the whole Taylor situation, because as a viewer and as someone that played the game, some of the Taylor stuff was pretty hard to watch with this cast, because there were things thrown around like, oh, Taylor's really aggressive, Taylor's making people feel uncomfortable. And then I would watch the feeds and I would see different situations and I'd be like, where is this stemming from? Like, but for a lot of us, we weren't really seeing it, and we were like, where's this aggressive? Who's she making feel uncomfortable? So maybe you could give a little insight as to like where that was coming from in the house, because we were watching the feeds and I know we don't see it all, but it was a little weird to see.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, the behavior that happened towards Taylor, it was wrong. So I'm still like, I don't know everything that was said, but I'm trying to figure it all out as, I'm going along. But what happened initially that blew everything up was that there was an altercation between Paloma and Monty. This is what set everything off. And Paloma and Monty were in my alliance. So I automatically trusted what they said.
Right.
I mean, I had to. They're in my alliance. And, like I believe them. And so from there, it was a lot of hearsay of things that were happening. Like, oh, she's doing this now, she's doing that. I remember like I was talking to somebody, and then like Pooch and Joseph, and like they said that she was listening on the door. And so we're like, oh my gosh, like that's aggressive. Like, why are we being pressed against the door? Now, mind you, I didn't see these things, so I don't actually know if there's true. I haven't seen them yet. So from my perspective, I'm going with it. I'm like, what the heck is going on? So I'm hearing, even the other day I was in the storage room and Jasmine said that she saw, her outside the storage room listening to me. So from my perspective, I'm like, this girl was listening to everything I'm saying. Like, she's just being super aggressive and pressing her ear against the door. Now, it wasn't until this recent, the day of the veto comp, where I was actually in the room for the first time when one of these big things happened. So I was in the room with Nicole and Taylor, when Taylor told her if she wants to quit, she can quit.
Yeah.
Like, don't feel bad about it. And I saw how that was completely taken out of perspective.
Right.
And so I got to witness that. And that was my first time being there when something that was said about her wasn't actually true. And so I had been running with all these ideas, and I had my own conceptions, because Taylor would say little things under her breath that I could hear. We all did it though, but like
we all
once you have a
house.
target, you just take any reason you possibly can. And so I think that's where a lot of this came from. I'm not sure if it seems like some of these things may not even been happening. I'm not sure, especially from this last week of talking to Taylor. So that's where it all really came from.
Yeah, it was a lot, because Taylor it's like she couldn't do right. Nothing was happening. And for somebody that has played the game, I've seen that. I just had Donnie Thompson from 16 on, and he was a similar person. It was just, he couldn't do anything right. Everything was taken as a manipulation tactic. And I was like, and then you get out and you're like, why are we doing this to this really nice, innocent guy? And that's what seems to be happening to Taylor. It's just unfortunate, but I think that's pretty good insight as to kind of what was happening. That whole situation between Taylor and Daniel, you actually said something, and I appreciated it. I just wish that you would have like told him to kind of like settle down. You were like, well, it was misconstrued. And he was like, well, no. And you should have been like, dude, you're going nuts right now on her.
You are 100% right. And I regret that immensely. I was in this situation. I'm playing this game and I'm like in strategy mode. And like, at the same time, I'm balancing like, my personal feelings and like things I know that are right.
Yes.
From the outside of the house, I should be calling out. But then I'm thinking about the optics of the situation. I'm
Totally.
thinking, I call this out now, like, are they going to come after me next week? Am I going to be a target? Are they taking $750K away from me? So like in my mind, in that moment, I felt like the best track forward was to talk to each of them individually. So I talked to Nicole, I talked to Daniel, I told them how I felt. And then I went to Taylor, told her how I felt. And I told her like I was on her side and I did not see that. She can come to me. And then I told her that I would be defending her to the other house guests, which is what I thought was the best move forward. Looking hindsight, I wish I would have said something in that moment. I was just trying to balance the game with right versus wrong. And there's so much wrong that happens in Big Brother. It's sometimes hard to find that line.
Ameerah, I think that gives like great perspective that people on the outside don't really understand. You're in a situation, it's a pressure cooker, and you all of a sudden, you know what's right, you know what's wrong, but you're like, if it's not like overtly insane, I'm not going to say something because I don't want to damage my chances of winning $750,000. So I appreciate that answer. Now kind of going off of, your blind side, right? You're completely blindsided. You sit there, you see the Leftovers Alliance, which I love the answer that you gave where you were like, why do they feel like outcasts when like 3 of them were in a lot of my alliances? But I want to know who, because I said a similar thing when I was covering it. I was like, Kyle feels like an outcast. I feel like he's friends with everybody. Like, what's he talking about?
He is.
Right?
He's the popular kid.
Yeah. So who do you feel most betrayed by? Maybe not like personal, but in the game that really took advantage of the relationship you had with them in the game and really is the reason that you feel so backstabbed and betrayed? Who's that one person?
Okay, so putting personal things aside, I think that game-wise, I feel the most betrayed by Monty. No hard feeling against Monty. It's a game. However, the very first week, he came to me after we had post-pack. He came to me and wanted to start a finals 2.
Yeah.
And he told me like he only wants to be taken down by like a Black woman, and so like he wanted to take to the end with him, and like he touched me a little bit here, and I trusted him, and so like. Even when Nicole was telling me not to trust Monty like this whole last week, I wasn't going for it. I was like, no, like I still believe him. And so I even went back to him, like trying to double down, like, hey, we're still good, right? So I felt like I really had their back. I was going to take Toes back to the end. I felt very strongly about it. And so like he was the one player game-wise that I was like, damn, like I thought we were in this together.
Yeah, that's really tough. It's tough when it happens. This game does a lot to people, right? And it's hard to hold it against them. It's so immediate for you, but they just saw an opportunity the same as you saw last week. And I got to tell you, last week, after the move that you pulled with Pooch, I was sitting there and I'm watching. I'm like, Ameerah's just going to crush this game. I just feel like she's she's doing so well. She gets this game. And then the guys caught onto it as well. And they started seeing that and they were like, Ameerah kind of got us last week and we got rid of Pooch. And I feel like we're making the girls really strong. And that's why I felt like I was like, the girls are sticking together. It's going to be great. But I'll tell you who the slip up was. It was the Taylor issue that I feel like it's hard to see that. But Brittany was really just kind of snaking between everybody constantly.
Oh, I know it. Listen, I called that from week 1 because I said, let's get Pooch evicted. And she went and ran to Pooch and told him. And I told Brittany, I knew how she was from the very beginning because week 1, she did me wrong with Pooch. She went and told Pooch what I was planning on doing. And so from that moment, I was like, we cannot talk game around her. But she was always like popping up in random situations. And then like I started hearing from people that she didn't feel included. So I'm trying to balance making Brittany feel included. I came to her one-on-one, or she came to me and like she was crying and I had to hug her. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Like this girl is doing me wrong. But at the same time, I'm trying to make her feel included and wanted. So it was really hard to balance Brittany. But man, that girl was getting all kinds of information. I saw her all the time doing it, and
Yeah.
I was just like, I wanted to get her evicted, but
Yeah, that's what when I saw that, and I was like, when she turned on you and told Pooch the information to save her butt with the
yeah,
backstage boss, I was like, Ameerah, don't trust her ever. Like, don't say anything to her.
ever,
Like, you do me wrong
ever.
once in Big Brother, that's it. I don't ever trust you with information. I don't feel like I need to tell you. And if you take that as like, oh, Cody doesn't really want to talk to me, he doesn't trust me, it's like, yes, I don't. And if I have a chance, I'm probably going to target you because she took information that you gave her and ran right to Pooch with it. So I was just like, Ameerah,
Yes.
what are you doing? Stop talking to Brittany. She's giving you up every time.
Yeah, she
So
did me. She did me wrong. She did.
yeah, but all right, that's great. I appreciate you so much for coming on here.
Thank
Thank you
you.
guys for stopping by here, and we will see you next week.